Over the last 8 weeks, Anthropic shipped more products than companies do over the entire year. 8 new features that completely replace OpenClaw. Claude Cowork that automates your desktop work, Claude Co-Review that reviews and edits your code, and just yesterday, they released computer use. Claude can now access and operate your entire computer. That means any file, any tool, any app, Claude can access and intelligently operate your own digital worker that lives on your computer. Each of these features individually are great, but collectively they form something much more powerful. A new AI-native operating system, maybe we call it Claude OS, that competes directly with Apple macOS and Windows. Claude is now no longer a chatbot or an LLM. It has become an entire AI operating system, and that is much more powerful than anything we've seen before.
There's a few oh my God, I can't believe it could do this moments that have happened fairly recently. One of them is when it took over my browser for the first time. I'll never forget the moment where suddenly a browser opens up on my screen and pages start opening and an AI starts interfacing with the system on my machine. And that just happened again yesterday when for the first time, the AI took my cursor on my display, moved it around, clicked on things, changed my window sizes, moved sliders around. It actually took over. It reached through the computer and started doing things on my desktop. It was unbelievable. And I know that people who use OpenClaw, they're like, we've had this for months and weeks and for a very long time, but this works with all of the infrastructure that I already have and that I trust. It is very cool and it is very powerful. There's essentially no limit to the possibilities in which it could do when it comes to engaging with your machine.
It is very slow. It's a little bit clunky, but this is the worst this feature is ever going to be. And the crazy part is you can give Claude access to anything on your computer, even if it is a work portal or if it is a email or Slack or calendar. It can now do things autonomously and intelligently for you, which is a massive jump up from Claude Cowork or anything that we've seen before, which has been limited by APIs or connectors or plugins. This is Claude looking at the screen and operating just like you would as a human.
You could be anywhere in the world and you could text Claude through Dispatch and it will actually use your computer and it can do anything. If you wanted to edit a photo, you could have it open up Photoshop and drag the sliders. If you wanted to create you a playlist on Spotify, it can open up your Spotify window and create a playlist for you. It's also important to note how this works because it takes a little while before you actually get to this point. What it will do prior to this when you ask it something is try to sift through the connectors that you already have with the Claude application. So if you wanted to interface with Slack or if you want to interface with Google Drive or your email or your calendar, those are all plugins and connectors that you can add to the Claude desktop application that allows it to interface much quicker than that. If there are no connectors, if there are no connected accounts, then it will defer to actual full computer use where it takes over your mouse, it takes over the keyboard.
It's very impressive to just see an AI maneuver my laptop and screen without me even touching it. I just want to pay attention now to the speed of execution that Anthropic has gone on because this shouldn't be understated. They've shipped all these features which allow and have led up to computer use in 8 weeks. Take a look at this crazy timeline. So 8 weeks ago, they shipped something called Claude Cowork, which you're seeing on the screen right now. And it basically automates a bunch of stuff on your desktop. But it's different from computer use because it requires plugins, it requires connectors, it requires different access and permissions to tools. Computer use is different because it sees the screen like a human would. It moves the mouse like a human would. Then a few weeks later, it released a marketplace for enterprise SaaS tools, released just for enterprise companies. And the idea here is they can access any enterprise tool or service, such as a legal Zoom or a legal plugin, and do all their contractual work for them. And that resulted in a bunch of stocks completely tanking. I remember when the legal plugin was released, it resulted in a 35% drop in the major legal stocks within the hour of them announcing it on X, which is pretty insane. Then a few weeks later after that, they released Claude Code Review, which was like a security tool for your Claude code. They then released Claude Remote Control, which allowed you to text Claude. They then released computer use, which was funneled by this company called reshape, which they acquired only 4 weeks ago. The point is, they have been on an absolute blitz, and it's crazy how they've created this OpenClaw killer in such a short time.
Yeah, so for a lot of companies, we can really only judge them on their product velocity, how fast they're able to ship new and noteworthy features. And hearing the fact that Claude Cowork is 8 weeks old is pretty insane. 8 weeks is not a long time. And in 8 weeks, we went from launching the research preview of Cowork to full computer desktop use. So 8 weeks from now, you have to imagine not only will all these features be incredibly better than they are today, but there will be far more of them available. The chart that we have on screen here, I guess it's comparing OpenClaw to Claude Cowork. And as we're comparing these two charts, you'll notice that the core functionality is basically the same. It controls your computer, you can message from your phone, you can message from chat apps. The difference lies within the enterprise and the tools feature set, where enterprise integration, security, governments, none of these are going to actually use the OpenClaw system because of a lot of security concerns. Anthropic, as we know, is built for enterprise solutions. So a lot of companies are going to be trusting this a lot more. A lot of companies are going to trust the fact that Anthropic will implement this more securely, more effectively, and more in a way that's just easier for an enterprise to use. Or if you're just the average user, easier for you to use because you already have all this downloaded on your phone and on your desktop application.
And if we remember, it was only, I think, 4 weeks ago that OpenAI acquired OpenClaw. And presumably they did it to build a very similar thing to what Anthropic just released over the last 8 weeks. It's pretty crazy that Anthropic outshipped them. But to your point, I think Anthropic didn't get engaged with OpenClaw in any way. They actually banned a lot of OpenClaw users from using OpenClaw with Claude because they built their own thing. And it's just safer, easier, and probably cheaper to use. If you have a Pro or Max subscription, you now get access to this. It's only functional on Mac OS for now, but presumably it becomes Windows. Speaking of Mac OS and Windows, there is a bigger plan that was revealed to me yesterday when they launched this feature, Josh, which is if I step away for a second and look at what Anthropic has built, they built an LLM that can code for you, that can speak to you, that can monitor and use your desktop, that can use your browser for you. It sounds like a new AI operating system. So I can't help but think that Anthropic's grand plan isn't to build the best LLM, it's to build a brand new AI operating system that might compete directly with Windows or Mac OS.
Yeah, well, they're doing it without directly saying it. I admire OpenAI for the fact that they've been saying for years now that their sole intention is to build an AI operating system. They want the operating system for your entire life. There wasn't really a blueprint for that. No one really knew quite what that would look like until OpenClaw came around and showed people that, wow, this Claw infrastructure is actually kind of cool. It takes the core components of a computer. It has the memory, it has the processing, it has storage, and it applies it to an AI agentic system. And I think once that OpenClaw blueprint became real, once that Claw blueprint became real, a lot of companies are now just racing to do that. So now Anthropic, without explicitly saying it, is very much building the Anthropic OS. You have all of their functionality built into one application on your desktop. It's now working with your phone. They're planning to just integrate more and more into this. OpenAI has been trying to. They have clearly been behind because Anthropic has been shipping so quickly recently. And then we have OpenClaw, which feels like the open source Linux version. So if I had to pin each one of these companies to something more relatable today, it's probably OpenClaw is kind of like Linux. It is universal, open source. It is core infrastructure that a lot of people will build on because it is stable and open source, and you have full control over that. And then there's Anthropic, which is probably closer to Microsoft, I feel. And then OpenAI and ChatGPT are close to Apple. They have the hardware angle incoming. They're working with the Apple designer, Johnny Ive. But each one of these is kind of working to build their own operating system. And it's actually working fairly well. And you're seeing the early signs of it, where it's starting to take over and kind of consume the existing Mac operating system that we're using. And then I'm sure there is certainly a plan to even displace that.
Yeah, so we have this cool visual here which shows the Claude OS stack as it exists today. You've got the intelligence, which is basically the model, Claude 4.6 Opus and Sonnet. You've got the developer stack, which is Claude Code. You've got the desktop, which is now Cowork, and the new feature they released yesterday, computer use. They've got mobile via dispatch, so you can text Claude, and a bunch of other things in tooling, MCP, which creates this entire operating system. I actually kind of disagree with you on Anthropic or Claude being like Windows. I think it's probably more like Apple for one specific reason, which is they seem to be leaning hard into the marketplace, which suggests to me that Anthropic might release their own app store with a range of different plugins that Claude can get access to. Because one thing that computer use, this new feature, allows is developers to build an app for computer use specifically that they can launch on Anthropic's hypothetical app store and give access to the 19 million daily Claude Code users which use these different tools. So that distribution, I think, is very attractive. And that's the same kind of attractive distribution that Apple created back in the early days.
And what's funny is the market demand is very much reflective of this in terms of daily active users, but also in terms of money. Now, there's been a lot of rumors recently that these companies are going to go public soon. And we kind of had a dry run of what that looks like through this weird company called VCX. Now, there's a venture fund named Fundrise. And what they did is they took their private shareholdings that they have in Anthropic, in OpenAI, in SpaceX and Databricks and a few other companies, and they listed it publicly on the stock exchange. That was listed a week ago for about $34 was the IPO price. This morning, it traded at $312 per share. That's a 15 times return on investment over the course of 5 days. So clearly there is unbelievable amount of demand for it. And if you run the math on these numbers, it's pretty interesting. So it has a NAV of $19 per share, and this morning it traded at $312 per share, which means the market is valuing a fund which has $650 million in assets at $5.8 billion. That's an 8 times premium on the assets held in the fund because people are so unbelievably desperate for exposure to these assets, to Anthropic, to OpenAI. They want to be invested in the stock of the future. And the problem with this alignment conversation, particularly in the case of Anthropic, is they're so focused on alignment on everything but financial alignment, right? It's like if you want true and total alignment with the mission, there needs to be some sort of vested interest that people can take in it. And that very clearly feels like an IPO. I just don't know why they're taking their sweet time doing it. And what we can do is we can reflect this market sentiment on the IPO that's coming possibly later this year, possibly early next year, through our friends over at POLYMARKET, who actually have a market built just for this, which is a test to see what the Anthropic IPO closing market price will look like on the day that it does IPO. And it's pretty high. There's an 82% chance it closes over $600 billion.
Twice what it is right now.
Twice what it is right now, which means there's a lot of upside. There's a lot of excitement around Anthropic. And you can see the chart has been trending upwards for a little while. We have a similar one with OpenAI, and it appears as if OpenAI is going to be even larger than Anthropic by 30 to maybe 50%. So it's funny, while we sit here saying how Anthropic has had so much growth, the market still very much believes that OpenAI is the larger company by a fairly significant margin, and they have the average IPO closing market cap at around $952 billion, just shy of $1 trillion. So these are going to be absolutely massive launches. The only question is when they're going to get here, and we'll keep our eye on it, and we will keep you posted on the progress towards that. Thank you, POLYMARKET, for sponsoring this section of the show.
And that brings us to the end of the episode. This product and feature is very new. Computer use isn't probably recommended to everyone. Don't give Claude access to your entire computer just yet. Use small, subtle tasks to see if it actually works like we did and showed you today on the episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe and turn on notifications. It helps us out massively. We've been going on an absolute tear on our recent episodes. The episode that we released on Monday, I believe, has currently, as I'm looking at it right now, has hit over 16,000 views, I believe, which is just insane. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music, please subscribe to us, follow us, give us a 5-star rating if you feel that we're worthy of it, or maybe ask Claude to do it via your desktop. Maybe use computer use. That also helps. Josh, is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I'd like to encourage everyone to try this. I think everyone will be surprised whether or not you use OpenClaw. I think applying this to your personal computer changes things because I'm one of the people that does have an OpenClaw set up. I have my Claude desktop application running with Cowork on it all the time. I've been using this dispatch feature, and there's a place for both. So I think people who are OpenClaw power users are going to watch this and probably laugh at it. But I wouldn't shy away from the fact that personal computer use versus your kind of workstation that you've set up for OpenClaw is a very big difference. And also the impact that it has in the fact that Anthropic has so many users that are non-technical, that just want to use AI. This is incredibly easy for them to set up. And the desktop application is great. It has the chatbot, it has Cowork, and it has code all built in under one roof. And this sounds like a paid shill. It's not. I wish they would sponsor us. It's actually just what I use every single day. So it's a good product that's worth trying because it's very reflective of what the future is going to look like, right? It's like currently we're typing on our computers, we're clicking things. Currently we're far faster than Claude is. But there's a world in the not so distant future where that is no longer true. And once that's not true, it unlocks a lot of really powerful use cases. So it's fun to try it now to get an early glimpse of the future. And even though it's slow and it's a little clunky, it's still worth experimenting with. That way you could stay right on the edge with us as we cover all of the news about frontier AI and technology. So like you just said, thank you guys again for joining us, for sharing this with your friends, for being so supportive and writing amazing things in the comments. I have not been able to answer all of them, but try our best to at least read them and just share some gratitude with you as well. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See you guys.